the anticipation for this has been ever since CM Punk has come back to professional wrestling. We want to see MJF and CM Punk go back and forth with promos. We get it. And they absolutely delivered to the point where they actually trended on YouTube number 2, which is a lot more impressive than trending on Twitter, because Twitter doesn't quite really relegate to Twitter as a whole. It's more of what you actually interact with, but YouTube actually has an algorithm that determines what's trending among the entire website. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely impressive. I think that it had a lot to do with some really good timing when you consider that Dynamite obviously took place on a Wednesday. The word had gotten out that these two had a really good back and forth, almost epic moment. I think a lot of people would consider that, especially for AEW. The fact that you had the holiday the next day, people getting together, maybe some people who were wrestling fans getting together, talking about it, obviously going to search for that content, even for some of the people who didn't watch Dynamite on Wednesday for whatever reason. I know, sometimes Wednesday, the night before Thanksgiving, tends to be a big night for people to go out. So people really trying to catch up on that. If they didn't DVR it, they probably went and searched it on YouTube. And good for AEW, because this is the type of stuff that they want to capitalize on. You want MJF, essentially one of the young up and comers, to get the rub from CM Punk. MJF held his own, and CM Punk was also very good.
Yeah, I mean, they went back and forth, and the jabs that they were going at, yes, there was a lot of WWE references in there. They referenced Cena, they referenced Triple H, they referenced The Miz. So yeah. I did a poll on who won the promo war between CM Punk and MJF, and I believe the poll actually, because I included the fans and members of WWE and just everybody, I believe the fans won that poll. So Ralph, who won the promo war without the other choices? Was it CM Punk or was it MJF?
Without the other choices? You're going to put me on the spot. I think that I really didn't come out of that thinking either of them had the leg up. I mean, MJF definitely made some good points, and I felt like he probably did a majority of the talking, but when CM Punk had his comeback and rebuttals, they certainly were on point too.
Yeah, they definitely were. And I think what was great about it was, yes, they tied into Triple H's, background without necessarily making digs at WWE that we've seen before with, some of these AEW promos where they're kind of more at jabs at WWE. This one just gave context to CM Punk. Why did he leave wrestling for 7 years? Why was he never the main guy? And MJF just kept digging at him, even throwing in his short stint in UFC. Yes, I mean, it was all good.
And that's good. In my opinion, I felt like they did it in a way where it was meant to more or less keep things in context, like you said, essentially elevate the situation between the two. Why MJF feels the way about CM Punk the way he does feel. So I think it helps set the table and really kind of set the dynamic for this feud. So I know a lot of times in the past, certain wrestlers have brought up WWE and talked about WWE in a bad way, but I think this was done in a way where more or less, it wasn't like they really trashed Triple H or they really trashed Cena, and even to the extent where they didn't trash The Miz. I mean, he essentially said that CM Punk's point was kind of like, you're not even at The Miz's level,
right?
So it wasn't like it was done in poor taste. It was just they really went everywhere. MJF covered all the bases, and it wasn't like, a lot of times people will talk about how they don't like when guys come up to the main roster in WWE that they ignore everything they did at NXT. Well, I think it would be like disingenuous for them to go out there and for MJF to just really talk about Punk's time specific to AEW, because wrestling, a lot of guys go back and forth between company to company, and to just ignore the time that Punk has had in WWE and elsewhere, I think would not do them any justice when they were going back and forth on each other. So I thought it was great from both sides.
It really was. And I don't know. I mean, there were some great one lines in this thing. There were some really good lines in this, but I think CM Punk's, I don't know if it was his closing line or close to his closing line, where the only way MJF is going to be the top guy in AEW is if he waits long enough for TK to have a daughter and he marries her. I mean, yes, it was a jab at Triple H, but that could be it. That's something that, MJF would definitely take offense to, even though it is a slight jab at Triple H as well.
It's a jab at Triple H, but it's the jab that everybody always talks about. And at the end of the day, I mean, not to get into this whole conversation, but if you look at the things that Triple H has done and accomplished, I mean, he's obviously done a lot without just being married to Stephanie. Of course, being married to Stephanie, I'm sure has opened maybe some doors that maybe wouldn't have been there for other people, but I digress. So for him to go out there and say that, especially considering the whole backstory with the terms and the reasons why CM Punk left the WWE, we obviously know there was tension between him and Triple H having to work together and all that type of stuff. But you can go and listen to his interview with Colt Cabana after he left the WWE if you want to be caught up with all that stuff.
Right. Now, there's a lot. I mean, this is just the beginning. They're not going to have this match next week on Dynamite. When do you have this match? Do you have it at the last Dynamite before they go to TBS? Do you put it on the first episode on TBS? Do you wait for Battle of the Belts? Do you put it on Rampage Winter is Coming? Do you wait all the way to Revolution?
Waiting till Revolution. Revolution's how many months out?
That's late February. So you're looking at 2.5 months out. Almost actually 2 full months out.
Yeah, that's a long time to really build a storyline. And not to say that they can't do it, but I've talked about this in the past. I feel like especially now with people's attention span kind of shrinking, and I know everybody says, "Oh, well, we want long-term storytelling." It's difficult. Like, how do you even talking about this one epic promo battle between the both of them? Like, how do you capitalize on that? How do you go to the next level? How do you kick it into the next gear? These two are great, and I'm sure they can do it, but it's a tall task to follow. So I think that Winter is Coming is probably the likely of scenarios. Just because I don't know. You drag that out for 2.5 months, 2 months. That's a long time.
Yes, but you're talking about two of the best promos in the industry right now. If anybody's going to actually get it so that they can prolong it that long, I think these two can do it.
They can, but I mean, they went, especially MJF, he went pretty much everywhere there is to go. He brought up UFC. He brought up the time that he had in the WWE and how he was what did he call him? Like a small fish in a big pond or whatever.
Big fish in a small pond.
Yeah. So, I mean, where else would they be able to go that hasn't been touched upon? I guess there's certain things that they could talk about, but the more that the further out that this is, the harder it is going to be to capitalize on. So not to say that they can't do it, but it would be difficult in my opinion.
It will be difficult. But like, that's a money match to me, but you got all these like big shows that are coming up that they're going to have to put some big matches on there too. And I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up, my guess would be that first episode on TBS. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
And if it's not there, I know it's called Battle of the Belts, but I'm sure there's going to be some non-title matches on there, and that could be one of them. But I will see. I mean, you could also, prolong this by just having Punk go through the Pinnacle, have 1 week against Dax Hardwood, another one against Cash Wheeler, then you go against Spears. I mean, they did it kind of before with MJF and storylines before, and it's not like the Pinnacle are really a dominant faction as much as they should be, but that's one way to kind of prolong the story all the way to Revolution.
Especially because FTR has really been kind of distancing themselves from that group. I think they're kind of doing their own thing with, Andrade and Malachi Black and that whole dynamic. So yeah, I guess they're still a faction, but it's not like they really have been taking the time to focus them solely as a group together. So they could do that if they need to prolong it, and I'm sure they will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but I mean, if you guys want to see it at Revolution, give us a like on this video right now. I see 29 likes on this video. I bet you we could bump that up right to close to, I would say 50. That would be my guess. Close to 50 likes on this video right now if they want to see AEW Revolution feature CM Punk and MJF. But let's kick gears into a little bit. The other big story that happened throughout the week was Seth Rollins on Monday Night Raw this week got attacked by a fan.
He did.
He got attacked by a fan, and I was watching this. He was, in a segment where he beat up Finn Balor prior to their match. The match doesn't happen. And as Seth Rollins is walking out, he just gets speared by this fan. And, after a couple of minutes of them scruffling, the referees come out, security guards come out, and they kick the fan out. It turns out we have some backstory as to why this happened. So the next day, this fan goes on, I believe, Instagram and claims that Vince McMahon and Goldberg booked him for the show to spear him, and said he's not only that, but he did it for Rikishi and The Rock, and he is also the cousin of Roman Reigns. And then he was interviewed by the New York Post, and he talked about how he was duped by Seth Rollins on Instagram, how he got scammed out of, I believe it was $3,000 in gift cards. So obviously this wasn't really Seth Rollins that did this. This was one of those catfish accounts, which I didn't even realize catfishing was still a thing. But yes, this guy, random person, posed as Seth Rollins and duped this kid into $3,000. And he believes that Seth Rollins was really the one that duped him. So that's why he jumped the barricade to protect Finn Balor and spears Seth Rollins. The next day on Busted Open Radio, though, you have Bully Ray, Bubba Ray Dudley going on this huge monologue on how this is the heat that you want as a heel, maybe not understanding the full context of the story. So, Ralph, now that you know the full context of the story, what are your thoughts?
Well, listening to Bully Ray's initial comments, I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was really on point in terms of where the industry is, because I think it's really trendy for heels to get cheered for nowadays. And especially somebody like Seth Rollins, whether you're Seth Rollins or if you're MJF, if you are having a fan jump the barricade and essentially attack you, it's not a good thing, but it's heat, to Bully Ray's point. Now, the problem with this is that's assuming that this happened spur of the moment. He goes out there, he jumps Finn Balor, and there's this back and forth, and he draws so much heat that a fan gets so angry that they jump over the barricade. Unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but that's not necessarily what ended up happening here. There's all this strange backstory about, getting ripped off money and thinking he's actually dealing with Seth Rollins. I don't know. It's just, it's a really strange, obscure story and unfortunate. I don't even know. I really don't know what to think of it. It's just, this is why they have blue checks on most social medias. No,
that would be part of it.
Talking to who you're dealing with, but
right. But then again, even the accounts with blue checks, could sometimes be hacked or sometimes be, duped. And you have these weird things happen on, like, it's so easy to manipulate things to make it look like one thing and not the other, I mean, you can have it so that you can fake an entire direct message conversation on Instagram and then post it on Twitter, and then everybody believes the Twitter conversation. Like, it can happen, and it's crazy. I mean, hopefully, it seems like Seth Rollins is okay, which is good. Hopefully this kid gets whatever help he needs. And I think at the end of the day, the real main question of this is, how bad is the Barclays Center security? Because this is the same building that also had a fan attack Bret Hart at a Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
It is.
So why can't these security guards tame these fans so that they don't attack WWE superstars or Hall of Famers?
Well, they were so busy attending to Finn Balor that they actually, they weren't in position to actually stop this fan from jumping a barricade.
Well, I'm sure there was someone. I mean, the security guards that go tend to Finn Balor, those are actors. They're not real security guards, as you know. But this is terrible.
So the part of Bully Ray's comments that I think still stand true and probably are most relevant at this point are just the fact that Seth did not react. Like, Seth did not try to go after the fan. Once security eventually got to him, they separated them. They had him pinned down. It wasn't like Seth went back and like punted that. I think, who was it? It was Wheeler, right? Cash Wheeler, when they were walking out the fan, and he literally just like punched him in the face. 5 minutes afterwards. It wasn't really 5 minutes, but as they're exiting and everything was kind of calmed down. I mean, but did the fan deserve it? Sure. I'm sure he did. But to his point, he probably saved the company quite a bit of money and a lot of headache there. So,
yep.
What did you think of Chavo's comments? I know that was a big part of this too, saying, remember when wrestlers were tougher than the fans?
Yeah. At first, it's just today's society. Even if you're the toughest guy in the room, like, it's so hard to flex those muscles because people are just so sue happy that like you think a fan would do this just to get a lawsuit because, oh my God, record profits. I can make some of this money back. I could make some of this money that they're making just by suing WWE if I get Seth Rollins to punch me in the face. But at the same time, we understand now the context of what happened. And this goes beyond that. But you also have to say, kudos to Seth Rollins for not doing anything, but just let the officials take care of him, kick him out. And, Seth Rollins did say a few things to him. He was barking some stuff at him as he was leaving. But, that's the best you can do in these situations. If you get attacked, you basically have to let that person beat the shit out of you, or else you reciprocate and you get a lawsuit. That's just how society is today. And it's sad that, like, even in self-defense, you could still get charged with aggravated assault if it gets that bad.
Well, not only that, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like they were literally in the ring face to face with another and like told, okay, let's see who comes out of the ring. Like, this fan jumped a barricade and he literally had a split second to try and process what the hell's going on. So, it's crazy to think that people are like, oh, well, it hurt Seth. It didn't hurt Seth at all. Like, give me a break.
Yeah.
You had some guy jump a barricade, unexpectedly charge at you and tackle you. Mind you, he's walking up the ramp, so he's on a decline. Just stop it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say this buried Seth Rollins in any way, shape, or form, but maybe they somehow turn this into a storyline where Seth Rollins could be like, look, I survived the fan attacking me, and then, try to instigate more fans to do it. Obviously, security had to do a better job at letting fans not do that, but who knows? He's a heel. Try to get heat out of it somehow. But, these are different days. Jim Cornette could probably tell you all the times that he was threatened and got attacked as a manager getting heat. But it's just sad. It's a combination of, the craziness that wrestling could be, plus how, if this is a mental health issue, how bad mental health can be for some people. And if you are one that has mental health issues, like, there's nothing wrong with getting help.